So it's been a little bit of a weird situation lately, right? Because we know that like PlayStation Network had been down for 24 hours before it got restored, and that's a little bit unacceptable, right? So we can sit there and we can look at the statistics and say, okay, well, technically Steam goes down more, technically Xbox Live goes down more, but those services don't go down for 24 hours. Usually there's a maintenance downtime. Sometimes it's down for a few minutes or whatever, but that's a completely different story than PSN being down for an entire day. And that's on top of the fact that Sony hasn't had a very good year or two, right? Like, we could sit there and talk about how everything is fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, it's not really the case. So I want to get into this a little bit. So if you guys didn't know, after 24 hours of downtime, PSN is finally back online, and Sony apologized with a free quote-unquote gift to players. Network services have been recovered from a quote operational issue. The company wrote in a statement saying, "We apologize for the inconvenience and we thank the community for their patience. All PlayStation Plus members will automatically receive an additional 5 days of service." So that's what you get for your downtime. The thing is, it's like, you start to see how important physical media and the ability to play physical media is. Outside of that, you start to see, things like this really can affect gaming in general. And, I feel like people have become real reliant on these things. A lot of people think that maybe we're heading towards a cloud-only future or something like that. And for reasons like this, I just think that won't work. People get really ticked off when this stuff happens. So the outage, which began actually on Friday, saw PlayStation Network, PlayStation Store, and the Portal all experience issues. While the outage was worldwide, some users has reported that they didn't really experience any issues. Sony acknowledged the issues. Of course, it has yet to provide a time frame for when the services were going to. Like, Sony did a really piss poor job of actually getting out there and getting ahead of this. Like, that's something that I think a lot of people take issue with, as well as the fact that Sony really wasn't out there saying, okay, well, we have this issue, we're working on it, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I think really what we started to kind of see is that Microsoft and Sony have different ways of kind of doing these type of things. For me, the fact that PlayStation Network was down, I think was a really good time. You did see a little bit of people go, oh, well, I'm not gonna, stick with PlayStation anymore, I'm gonna get an Xbox or whatever. And that's, kind of human nature. It's not to say that Xbox is perfect or Xbox Live is perfect, but you do kind of see how these things are kind of working and how people kind of approach it. So for me anyway, I look at this, and I actually made this comment, and people were like, well, just because PSN was down for a day doesn't mean that people would jump ship or do this or that or the other thing. And my point to that was, it's not just a PSN thing, right? So if we look at what Sony has done for the past year or two, they canceled 10 games. They released the biggest flop in the history of gaming, which is Concord, a game that was so bad that they literally recalled it and pulled it off the shelves after 10 days or something. They've had numerous leadership changes due to the fact that of poor management and things like that. They released a $700 PS5 Pro without a disk drive. Right? They haven't released a AAA first-party game in almost 2 years. That's a pretty big thing to kind of have an issue with right now. You know what I mean? And just fact of the matter, they haven't done a big first-party showcase event like how E3 does or how Microsoft does their shows in years. I mean, they hold the state of plays, but those are different. People want a big showcase event, and so when you don't see those, it can be a little bit disruptive or whatever, the fact that you don't know what's coming down the pipeline. So there's a lot of different things kind of going on right now, that I think people are starting to kind of taking exception with that Sony's doing, and I can understand that completely. Now, do I think, oh, it's super smart to go all in on Xbox, knowing how their situation is? No, I don't think that it's incredibly smart to go do that, but I do think that I can understand people's frustration, right? Because at the end of the day, you have Microsoft, they have their games ready and things like that. You also have a situation where Sony's probably not going to have anything ready to launch for a little while. You know, I mean, like I said, they just canceled a bunch of games. They've realistically had this kind of situation where they took the wrong bets on the wrong things, and that happens with gaming, right? It really does, and I can understand that thought process, right? You know, you have these situations that come up, yeah, like I completely understand, you know, stuff happens, but like Sony went all in on games as a service. You know, they had their, you know, their big first party studios or whatever working on games as a service stuff, you know, and you know, that stuff didn't exactly work out well for them. That's, you know, kind of unfortunate. And at the same point in time, you know, you have Microsoft finally ready to do something good. And I mentioned this on X as well. I said, you know, listen, if Microsoft had done the stuff and stayed with the idea of you know, of doing all this stuff, right? Because like I said, you had canceled 10 games, released the biggest flop with Concord, 0 first party showcases in years, a $700 Pro without a drive, PSN outage for over 24 hours, 0 communication with fans from PlayStation, 1 first party release AAA in 2 years, raised the price of PlayStation Plus to $80 a year just for multiplayer, multiple leadership changes. They bought Bungie for some reason. Like, why? They picked these studios to purchase as well that are like games as a service studio. They've closed multiple studios, canceled games. So I think if Microsoft had actually stuck with the plan and were actually competitive, you know, some people are fed up with what PlayStation is doing, regardless of what you might think. A huge game up lineup that is exclusive to Xbox. Like, think about this for a second. If this were the lineup for Xbox this year, Avowed, Outer Worlds 2, Doom: The Dark Ages, South of Midnight, Gears of War E-Day, and Fable. If that was exclusive to Xbox, like it should be, that entire lineup, then I think, yes, we would definitely see a situation where Xbox could sell consoles and Xbox could do better than what we've seen before. So yeah, you know, I really do look at that, and I look at this and I go, okay, well, things could definitely be in a different situation had something actually happened there. You know what I mean? So I do think that if people weren't off put by this whole situation with Xbox putting games on everything, we could definitely see more stuff happening where people are going to you know, Xbox, you know, and I think that could happen. You know, that could be a thing that that still happens. You know, people could be changing and doing things and you know, moving to Xbox and just seeing that, hey, you know, we have something that you know, that's really starting to kind of make things, make people come around for the platform, you know, and again, that's just my opinion. You know, you might not feel the same way as I do about this stuff, but I do think that it is something that Microsoft could do to go out there and, you know, make people kind of take a look at what their console's doing. You know, instead, it's like people don't really trust Microsoft. They're sort of stuck in this Sega loop, you know, and people don't know what the Sega loop is. It's basically where, you know, Sega had lost the trust of everybody because they had released a bunch of hardware. They didn't support the hardware. You know, they just do a bunch of moves that weren't really indicative of you know, of what the fans wanted. You know what I mean? The fans go out and spend money on stuff, just like with the Series X, right? Like, hey, we're gonna do exclusives on the Series X, and that's why we bought ZeniMax. And then basically that was a lie. You know, oh, it's only 4 games. It's like, you can't consistently lie to your fan base and expect people to kind of like be you know, taken in by that, or want to be you know, want to be kind of watched or be involved with that after that point, you know. So in my opinion anyway, we'll see what kind of happens from this. I think, like I said, Microsoft could get some users out of this whole deal. But you know, we'll see, man. How were you guys affected by the outage? I would love to know. You guys can let me know down below. I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys are new to the channel, I do daily gaming content. I try to have fun with it, try to be informative, try to give my honest take on these things. Maybe that's something you guys can get next to, hopefully. Anyway, if you do enjoy it, please like, share, subscribe. I would certainly appreciate it. You know, like I said, this is a weird situation to be in, because who would have expected PSN to be down almost an entire day? You know, it's crazy. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Rack 'em up. I'll catch you next time. Crap Gamer out.